One thing I do a lot of times when I am trying to figure out what things to watch is I will check to see what other people are watching. And that usually brings me to the website RottenTomatoes.com. Now, one thing about RottenTomatoes.com is that they rank all types of movie and TV shows. They usually give every movie or TV show a rating, which is usually a percentage rating and is based on the percentage of people that recommend the movie or TV show or whatever it is you're looking up. Welcome back to the channel. This is DL Jones. This is the DL Jones Books channel. And on this channel, I talk about all types of things that are story related. Story related topics that could be in movies, TV shows, video games, and audiobooks. On this episode, we're going to be talking about review ratings. Specifically, I'm going to be concentrating on the ratings that you see at RottenTomatoes.com. As far as when it comes to looking up reviews, I look at a lot of different things. When I'm trying to find information about a movie or a TV show, if I'm looking for something to watch, or I'm looking for something that I'm going to put on my radar for future viewings, I have several different things that I check, as far as seeing what people thought about it. A lot of times if it's a movie that I already know I want to see, I don't need to watch it. I don't need to look at any of that stuff. But if it's something where I don't necessarily know anything about the movie, or I'm trying to figure out what the movie is about or something like that, there are some things that I check to make sure it's worth my time. And Rotten Tomatoes is probably my first go-to place to check for those things. Now, if you're not familiar with how Rotten Tomatoes work, I'm going to go over it just a quick overview on how these scores are obtained and what those ratings mean when you see it. I know a lot of times you go to RottenTomatoes.com and you look at a movie and you see a percentage score. And, a lot of times people don't necessarily understand what that percentage score means or how Rotten Tomatoes came up with that percentage score. The way it works is you have a bunch of critics, and these are all critics that are, I'm not sure if they're partnered or approved, but they're all like Rotten Tomatoes critics. If you are a movie critic that has maybe you write for a newspaper or a magazine, or you have a website, or you do videos, if you are one that Rotten Tomatoes consider to be, on the level of critic that they're looking for, then you can become one of their critics. I've never looked into it, so I don't know how you actually become one of those critics. But when you look at a lot of their reviews on the different sites, they'll have two sections. They'll have the critic reviews and user reviews. And the critic reviews are the ones that are approved by Rotten Tomatoes. And that's the one that will give you the percentage rating that you usually see. Now, the way they come up with the percentage rating is that each critic will have done, let's say a critic does a review of a movie. A critic gives a movie a 4 out of 5, So according to Rotten Tomatoes, that 4 out of 5 would be considered recommended. That movie would be considered a movie that critic recommend. So then that recommendation will be added to the score of that particular movie. If you are a critic and you watch a movie and you give that movie a 2 out of 5, then that movie would be considered not recommended. So the scores is not based on the actual score that the critic gives. Like, the score is not based on the critic giving a 4 or a 5 or like an 8 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10. That doesn't matter. All Rotten Tomatoes do is look at the score and determine whether or not that reviewer recommend or do not recommend that particular movie. If it recommends that movie, then it adds to the percentage score. If that critic does not recommend the movie, then the review score is lowered. So it's not a percentage based on what each individual critic give in their individual scores. Is based on one thing: if that critic recommends the movie or not. It's sort of like a yes/no score, and that yes/no is determined based on the scores that they give. But it doesn't matter if that critic rated, let's say a critic has a 10 scale scoring system. If that critic rate this movie a 7 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10, it doesn't matter. As far as Rotten Tomatoes is concerned, that is considered recommended. It doesn't matter the 7 out of 10 or the 9 out of 10 is still considered recommended, and both of those will go into the pot that Rotten Tomatoes calculate as a recommended score. Now, the percentage that you usually get at Rotten Tomatoes is how many percent of the reviewers that they have calculated recommends that movie. So like if a movie has a 76%, that means that out of 100 reviewers, 76 of those recommended that movie. That means that 76 of those reviewers have rated that movie. I'm not sure what the cutoff is, a 6 or above, I'm guessing, or maybe a 70 or above. I'm not sure what part they consider as recommend or not recommend. A fresh or a rotten, a rotten tomato. The little emblems that they have on the site beside the thing. Okay, I'm looking at the Rotten Tomatoes site now, and here it says that a 60% or above is when they consider a movie or TV show to be fresh, and that would be the tomato emblem that you would see beside a review score. And then 60% or below would be when it's considered rotten, and that's when you get the little look like a tomato splat. So that's the cutoff. Looks like 60% is the cutoff. The way it works is you'll have, out of all of the review scores that Rotten Tomatoes gather together and average out, the percentage score that you would see would be the percent of reviewers who have recommended this movie, who said, yes, this movie is good. And it doesn't matter what their score is. It just matters if they recommend it or not. So if a movie is rated 60%, that means that 60% of the reviewers have said, yes, go see this movie. So now that we gotten that out the way and we understand, a quick basics on how the review scores, the percentages, and whether a movie or TV show is rated fresh or not on Rotten Tomatoes, how that works, what effect does that have on you when you go to the site and you view those ratings? If you go to a site and let's say you're thinking about going to see a movie and you go to a site and it has a low percentage, does that affect your thoughts going into the movie? Like, can you still go to that movie and look at the movie with an open mind, or will that, skew your mindset as far as watching that movie? I'd like to hear about that in the comments below. And while you're there, make sure you click the like button and subscribe. And that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. You made it to the end of the video. Thank you for watching. While you're here, why don't you check out that video right there, or maybe that one right there. And while you're at it, go ahead and click my image in the middle there and subscribe to this channel.